Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Taroni, Reading Conservation Administrator. Consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and allowing us to adhere to social distancing requirements during this COVID-19 crisis, this Town of Reading Conservation Commission meeting is being held virtually via Zoom for audio and video participation of conservation commissioners, applicants, their representatives, and the public. During this meeting, myself or the chair will unmute commissioners, applicants, representatives, and members of the public individually as needed. During the commission meeting, the chair will be the only one permitted to share videos. These controls are in place to ensure that tonight's meeting is safe and effective. At this time, Chair Moore will conduct a roll call to confirm that all members are present and can hear her.
Okay, and this order will be the order in which we vote when we do our voting. Brian Bowe?
Brian Bowe, Vice Chair, present.
Andrew?
Andrew Dribbin, member, present.
And John?
John Sullivan, member, present.
Great, thank you. And Martha Moore, Chair, present. Okay. Do you have more to read, Chuck?
Sure do. Thank you, everyone. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and also be aware that folks may be able to see you. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All the materials for this meetings are available on the Conservation Division page, and I recommend that commission members and the public follow the agenda as posted on the Reading website unless otherwise noted. However, because this meeting is being conducted remotely, I advise applicants in particular that the Conservation Commission cannot discuss or consider documents which are not presently posted. Information may be presented orally. Similarly, members of the public are encouraged to provide written public comment, but should understand that not all participants nor the commission members will be able to see written comments during the course of this meeting. Before we go on to tonight's agenda, I'm going to cover some ground rules for safe and effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure that this meeting minutes are being taken accurately. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. After commissioners make their remarks, please, and these remarks have been addressed by applicants, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by their name. Once the chair has a list of public commentators, the chair will call each one by name and afford them 4 minutes for comment. The applicants may request to respond by the chair or the conservation administrator. After the public comments, the chair will once again go down the list of commissioners, inviting each one by name to provide any further comment, question, or motion. Please hold off until your name is called. Finally, each vote taken tonight will be conducted by roll call. Okay, Chair Moore, back to you, and I will start recording now.
Recording in progress.
Okay, our first public hearing is the Eagle Scout project, and we should admit Jeffrey Lonks and anyone else that he has with him for that purpose.
Hello, I am Jeffrey Lonks. I'm looking for approval on a replacement on part of a bridge in the town forest.
Okay, are there any other people involved with your scout troop that are here that we should let into the meeting?
Yes, Steve Guzzi.
Okay.
Meeting, but...
Good evening. Hello, Steve. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Jeffrey, do you want to explain how you picked this particular section of boardwalk that you want to replace, and are there video, images that you've sent to Mr. Tironi that we should have put up on the screen?
Yes, can I do my own screen share, or is that, can I do that?
Chuck, is that all right with you? You're muted. Okay, I'm asking Chuck to unmute.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hey, Jeffrey, I made a mistake. You need to give up your host controls. I clicked the wrong button with you and would not be able to control the screen. So can you just go to your
participants.
portal, and then right at the top, there's 3 buttons up there, and you want to press them, and you'll see that you can relinquish the host.
Where is this? I'm not,
Click on the participants list, and then there should be 3 buttons next to your name. Does that make sense? Are you fine? Ah,
I think I've given
Chuck Tironi is now the host.
okay.
All right, well, that's good. So you 100% so far. Okay. Thank you. Let me just make sure that you're all set too. I'm going to make you the co-host, Jeffrey, and we're back to it. Okay, now you can share the screen and go through your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. Okay, can you all see this? Is this working?
Yes.
All right. So this is where the boardwalk is in the town forest. I have more zoomed in. So it's about 30 feet, and it's more or less the most damaged section of the old bridge. So you can see here, this corner is kind of sunken in, and sometimes it's been underwater. So, and most of the wood here has been rotting and has been there for many years. And their supporting structure isn't very strong. It's just kind of sitting on some cinder blocks, which have sunken into the mud over the years. Our new bridge design, this is a section that was replaced recently, maybe a year ago. And we're basically going to copy what they've done with much more high quality materials, rot resistant, pressure treated wood, and a composite surface for the top of it. And also a more stable support so it doesn't sink into the ground like the old one has. So we'll be able to, if we get approval from all the things we have to, which could take some other time, we can do fundraising in September and construction late October, hopefully. And during construction, the bridge will only be like down for 1 day. And we got a budget breakdown, which I don't know if you need to see, but if there's any questions from anyone.
Okay. Are there any members of the Conservation Commission who have questions for Jeffrey? Brian?
Thank you. So the first question really is, what made you choose this section? I know you mentioned that was damaged, but can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, let me go back to my pictures of it. So you can see this corner here. So it turns right here, and this corner, basically the support has sunken into the mud so much that right here is occasionally underwater. So the plan is to sort of lift it out, and well, we're gonna remove everything, but we're also gonna make it so that this whole section is level and this isn't a big dip right here.
I mean, I walk that fairly frequently with my dog. I don't remember it being on the water. I do recognize that the boards can be pretty saggy. When was the last time you saw it on the water?
It might not have been very recent, might have been like a year or 2 ago. It doesn't happen that often. I've seen it maybe once or twice over.
Okay, so that's not the major driver.
it's not a huge issue. It's just, well, it's constantly sinking more because of the unstable support. So we're trying to make it so that that doesn't happen again, basically.
Okay, so it's saggy and it will get worse over time. But what was the thinking behind choosing to replace that versus replacing somewhere else or installing some in a place where it hasn't been installed yet? How is that trade-off done?
Well, I go across this bridge very often, so it's sort of important to me that it is a decent place to go. And last year, when we other people in our scout troop replaced this other section, I was there, and you could see that it improved the area a lot. Right after, it was immediately much nicer section of bridge. So I'm trying to continue that and finish the rest of the bridge that is also damaged.
No, I understand and I agree. The places that have been replaced are much better from 12 different perspectives. I guess my focus really is on why here, why now, and why not other places where it hasn't been done in the first place.
Well, I mean, I can't really say why I didn't pick anywhere else. It's just this is what I noticed as a problem. I didn't see other areas that seemed to need it that much. I mean, if you have places that you know that need bridges, I'll listen to you and see what maybe we can talk about doing something there at some point. But I
Sure.
haven't noticed issues in other areas as much.
Jeffrey, could you unshare?
Yes. So
Easier to,
yeah.
great, thanks.
All right. Brian, did you have any other questions for Jeffrey, or can we see if anybody
No
else?
questions. I might suggest, Jeff, that you talk with Chuck. Chuck is also on the Trails Committee, and he could probably give you a list of other places where boardwalks might be useful in the first place. But other than that, I don't have any other comments or questions.
John or Andrew, did you guys have any comments or questions?
I'll just ask a couple quick questions, Jeffrey. So the current boardwalk is made of wood, is that correct?
Yes.
And you don't, I'm not particularly familiar with this exact part of the trail. I probably walked it, but I don't know town forest super well. So it's probably pressure treated, and the wood itself seems to be in pretty bad shape. I mean, I like composite, but I always prefer wood over composite. And so when we have a trail that's made out of wood, it may very well justify the transition, but just curious how bad of a state it is. And I'm kind of like where Brian's asking, like, are there other, since this is maybe, I don't know, it might be a great project, but there might be other projects in the town that could also be we could really use your guys' help. But either way, I'm supportive of you guys doing this work. It's great you guys are interested in it. And I will have to walk that site to see what it looks like myself. Hopefully I could do that soon.
John, any comments or questions?
What kind of supports are you planning to use on this to keep it from sinking further?
So we're going to use like a 4x4 pressure treated post that we're going to, stick in the ground pretty deep. Try to like go past the mud so it doesn't just sink further, because the old thing that they have is they basically just put a concrete block on the surface and maybe push it in a little bit, but that wasn't very stable long term. It worked for a couple of years, but over time it sunk in. So we're going to prevent that by using maybe like a 5-foot post and really put it in pretty far.
Okay, and is there going to be a concrete block underneath that post down below the mud, or is it just going to be wood?
Just
all the
going to
way
be
down?
wood.
Okay. And have you thought about when you're going to be doing this, when it won't be flooded and you'll be actually able to get in there and do the work?
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. We're going to do October, which is probably the driest time we can get.
All right. I think that's it for me.
All right. let me just make a couple of comments. I assume you say it's all going to get done in one day so that you won't be stockpiling materials ahead of time or leaving the leftover materials afterwards. All of it's going to be brought in that day to do the project. Is that correct?
Except for, because the posts are kind of off the side of the bridge, we might be able to put those in like a few days before, just so that we have enough time to finish the whole project in that one day. So it'll be installed in the ground, then we will come back the next day and put the rest of it in.
Okay, and you won't need to take the first bridge out in order to install the posts for the second bridge?
No, because the posts are like a half foot off the edge of the bridge.
Okay,
They're like wider, so it supports it better. And
okay. I listened in on, I think it was the Town Forest Committee when you were presenting to them. And there were some comments from members of the Town Forest Committee that they thought the post sticking up higher was not good and they should be cut off flat. And they also didn't like the bolt sticking out. But in fact, I think both of those features are a good function, because if the post ever does sink, you could relocate your bolt holes higher up on the same post and adjust your boardwalk. So I would encourage you not to cut off the bolts or cut the posts shorter. I think it's not a bad thing to have a little flexibility for future possible sinking of the posts. So I will disagree with the Town Forest Committee members. All right, and I am concerned, like Andrew, that we're taking apart a bridge that may still have some life in it and replacing it now. So just a comment, especially for Steve, if he's advising future Eagle projects, that maybe talk to Chuck Tirone in advance. There may be a list of other trails that the Trails Committee has as high priorities that you might want to suggest future Eagle Scout candidates pick their projects from that list of the highest priority trails. All right, that's it for me. Chuck, did you have anything?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to start with Martha's comments. I think that the boardwalk with the 2x6s sandwiching the 4x4 that's bammed into the ground, I think that bit that's left above it would aid in re-leveling the deck if you had to bring it up.
Has
He's
Chuck
frozen.
just frozen? Oh, Zoom, don't we love you? Okay. We'll give him a minute to come back in again. While we wait for Chuck, if there's any members of the public that are here who have comments they want to make about this project, you could use the reactions function at the bottom of your screen and click the raise hand button. And then when Chuck is done, I'll call on members of the public. Okay. I think Chuck is rejoining. Steve, I see your hand is up. We'll call on you after Chuck. Okay, we've lost Chuck altogether.
I have been made the host again. Should I make someone else or?
Oh my. Yeah, why don't you make Brian the host?
Okay.
And that probably happened because Chuck dropped off the call.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes Chuck back. Oh, Chuck is host again. All right. Let's unmute Chuck. Okay, Chuck, can you hear us? Are you back on? We're trying
Yeah,
to.
can you
There
hear me?
are. Yes, we can hear you now, Chuck.
All right. It's a little problem. So yeah, so I was talking about the 6x6 or the 2x6s being sandwiched by the 4x4s. So I like that design. I would keep it that way. And if people were worried about getting cut on the exposed threaded bolts, I would just get some like ends, like rubber ends to throw on that. That's how I would handle that. But I did want to let you know, Jeffrey, that I sent you an email. And I asked, it was about a week ago, but you didn't reply, so I'm not sure you received my email. And it did say that I was wondering, you know, my concern with this stuff is I'm always worried about it, you know, creating more waste. And Brian mentioned, you know, this is a decent, not 100% boardwalk, and it looks like it could be repaired. And I directed you to look at the end of Lynetta Lane and the Pineville Conservation Area. And in Pineville, we have a lot of trails, and the Trails Committee is concentrating on that right now. And so we have a 50-foot section right here that's being worked on, but it's all 50 feet isn't completed. And we have this area over here, which is, it says 20 feet, but this is 100 feet. And here, this is a like a plank system on the ground, but you constantly get walking in mud. And then there's some other spots in there that need it. So we have about, I could say 200 feet of boardwalk that's not, or 200 feet of muddy trails that's not boardwalk at this time. And I would encourage you to talk to your fellow scouts when you're doing the project or talking about your project, that the Trails Committee and the Conservation Commission would, you know, like to see trails and projects elsewhere than the town forest. It's like the Trails Committee does a lot of repairs, and that's in their wheelhouse, but to rebuild takes a lot, and it's hard to do. And if you guys have that energy, we'd like to get some new trails built elsewhere in town where we have these problems. So hopefully the next group comes in and you know, maybe they could talk to the Trails Committee first, or the Conservation Commission first, and then the Town Forest Committee if needed. I guess if it's not happening in the Town Forest, it wouldn't be needed with them. So anyways, that's what I had to say. I like the project. I like the way it looks. Typically, the width of the boardwalk is 4 feet. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, it'll be identical to the section that was recently replaced.
Sure, and any end that goes to the ground has a ramp, so it goes flush right into the ground?
There won't be any connection to the ground because we're connecting two already replaced sections and just kind of putting the gap between them.
Bumping in together. All right, that sounds great. And I noticed in the pictures that the boardwalk planks look like 2x4s. Is that your recollection?
The old bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like they are.
Yeah, like 2x4s. Yeah, we don't use 2x4s right now. We're using, for decking, we're using pressure treated, composite, or 2x6s. So what's the plan with the disposal?
Yeah, I don't really know what we're planning to do with the leftover material. Yeah, we'll have to think about that, and I can, if you have any idea of what we can do with it, then tell me, but we don't know what we're going to be doing yet.
So, you know, for the town projects, we can tap the DPW department. I could try to make a call for you about that if you needed that, but pressure treated wood, and that's why we wanted, you know, again, back to the same thing, why we want it left in place is because it's becoming more and more difficult to get rid of. So, it would be nice to know that you had, you know, a disposal spot for that. I think that would be something that I would want to know where it's going and how that would happen. I guess you would have to walk it out to the compost area at least, or drive it out.
Yeah, we'll at least do that. When we have a plan, I'll tell you about what we're planning to do.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to Jeff, and then I'll send you another email. I'm hoping you got that email, or you could find it in your trash, or
I saw I read your email. I just didn't have time to respond, and I kind of forgot about it.
okay, not a problem. So I'll respond on that same email and talk to Jeff from the DPW department tomorrow and see if that's something. You don't even know what you've done in the past with this material, so.
I know the person that did the replacement. I can talk to him and see what he did and just go from there. But
Yeah, so that's going to be, that's probably going to be a lot of, a lot of material. So I'm not sure. I'm promising I'll make a call, but I'm not promising they'll say yes. So that's all my questions.
Okay, we have a member of the public who wanted to make a comment, and that's Steve. And I'm gonna ask Steve to unmute, and I'm gonna lower his hand. All right, Steve, are
folks.
you there?
Yeah, first, sorry, Jeff, I got remuted. I'm not sure how, but there were a couple of things that got brought up during the course of the conversation that I think Jeff started this project because the town forest committee asked him to replace a section of the bridge, and I think that was probably important information for you to have. They've been concerned about this section of the bridge, and so when we got into conversations with them, this became the focus. It was also it was also high up on the list for Trails Committee. They were very excited about getting it replaced. So, you know, I want to make sure that everybody's clear.
Yeah, I think we need to, Steve, sorry to,
Yeah,
see,
sure. Go
I
ahead.
went and asked both of them also. I asked the Trails Committee, so I'm their liaison. And
Yeah.
so I asked the Trails Committee what they thought about this project. And, you know, the Trails Committee is focusing on Pineville and Lynetta Lane. And I asked them, you know, what's going on with this? And I'm not sure what they said in the meeting. I'm not going to say that this wasn't the top of their list, but we decided to put a list together of the top 10 areas that we would want to have things focused on. So that will be available in the future. And but it's not to say that they didn't say this is a great. I mean, you know, you guys have already planned it, and I'm just hope that we encourage you to you know, look in other spots. I mean, when I got here in 2011, and Pineville, the trails were just covered in with brush and no one used it, and it was all mud. And I've been trying to get people down there for a long time, and I know that there's been a lot of focus on town forest, and I just think that I was, you know, in an effort to try to spread it out, I was trying to get people to look at Pineville. And now that I'm part of the Trails Committee, I've kind of mentioned it there too, and it's become our focus. And we tried to get a grant for it, but we ended up getting some ARPA funds to do some building there. So, but everything helps, and any future project that the Scouts can bring to us for that area would be greatly appreciated.
So a couple of things, if I could. I think what you're seeing is a long-standing relationship that the Scouts have had with town forest, and which does not exclude that from expanding by any stretch of the imagination. The other thing is I am chairman of the Friends of Reading Scouting. So I oversee all of scouting in Reading. So I now know that there's going to be a list, and I will make sure that everyone knows about that.
All right, Steve, that sounds great. Yeah, I know I put that in. My part of my thought was that these guys camp there, they walk through there. It's town forest is a scouting forest, so I get why everyone identifies problems there. So yeah, appreciate that.
Good.
Right. Any other comments from you, Steve?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public who wanted to comment? If so, please use the reactions button and the raise hand button within there. All right. If there's no more discussion, can I have a motion about Jeffrey's project to repair a bridge in the town, replace a bridge in the town forest as described?
So what is that motion exactly? Would the motion be to approve Jeff doing the work?
So you would have a motion that would be, you approve the bridge. So if it has a name of that bridge, just insert it. Cranberry Bog Dam Trail. So you would say, we approve the 30-foot section to be rebuilt at the Cranberry Bog Trail under the townwide permit 270-0568, RGB 2009-36. And you can just say so moved and someone
I
else
was
can
about
second
to.
that.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, and before we vote, I just wanted to check, do we feel we need a site visit, or can everybody vote with an understanding of what this area is? Is there anybody who feels they need more information?
I would like a site visit, but Jeffrey, is that your understanding that the town forest had asked you guys to do this project?
Yes, I've met with the head of the town forest committee in
Mr. Sullivan.
that area.
That was me. So, okay, sounds good. I trust that. That's enough information for me.
Yeah, sure. I had the same thought. We needed a site visit just to see the damage and the extent and why it needed to be rebuilt. But understanding that Bill Sullivan identified this as a project that he wanted to have taken care of as the chair of the town forest committee, and the fact that Brian Bowe has walked over that and added his insight on that, I'm comfortable.
Okay. And Andrew, I'd be happy to take you and possibly your kids out and show you this area. We can plan that offline and at another time if you'd like. We have until October before it gets taken apart and rebuilt. So we could schedule something like that.
Sounds good.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Can you start voting, Brian?
Brian Bowe, approve.
Andrew Driven, approve.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for coming, and thank you, Steve, for your input as well.
Yes,
Thank
thanks,
you for having
Steve.
us.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
All right, our next hearing is 1102 Main Street. That's Yasmin Kuki was here for that. Okay, we can unmute Yasmin. And is there anybody else here with you, Yasmin, or is it just you?
My contract is under Deanna Morris.
Okay, let's unmute Deanna. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Great. Thank you for coming. I think there's a blurb I need to read here. And then we can get started with the discussion. We are opening the public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Thomas Knight under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for the removal and replacement of a 12-foot by 16-foot exterior back deck with new hand-dug Bigfoot sonotube footings. The spoils from the digging will be removed from the site. The deck construction will be pressure-treated wood with composite decking boards and handrails. The construction access is off the driveway and the stockpile area is located next to the deck. A line of straw bales will be installed 15 feet away from the work to prevent any erosion problems. All of the work is within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under Projects by Year, Assessors Map 39, Lot 144, RCC file number 2022-7. Okay. And
Sure.
if you folks want to turn on your videos, you're welcome. I think you're capable of doing that yourselves. There's Yasmin. Okay. So a couple of us went out for a site visit. John or Brian, did you get to go, or just me and Andrew?
I did go recently,
Okay.
not with you guys, obviously, but yes.
Okay,
I didn't get a chance to make it out. We've had a house full this week, so.
right, okay. Andrew or Brian, do you want to describe what you saw on your site visit?
Andrew, why don't you go ahead and do that and talk on as it is.
So yeah, I was there with Martha, I believe on Monday. And the house is on Main Street. There is an older deck there that it seems like the foundations have sunk over time. We are very close to wetlands. I don't know exactly how close. I didn't have a tape measure. And then the yard adjacent to the house, so just north of it, which is her property. As I'm sure she'll mention, there's also a fence line tagged out, of which she would like to build a fence. And you can see some of the wetlands making their way into the yard, including some cattail. And the edge of it seems like it may have been mowed, going up to the cattail. And it was also very wet in the spots where, but yeah, so that's basically what I saw. Not the most elegant description, but do you have anything to add, Brian or Martha?
No, that about sums it up. I mean, essentially, yeah.
Okay. The only other thing I noticed, besides that the cattails are trying to encroach on the lawn in the back, is that there are 2 stone bounds along the driveway, between the driveway and the artist property to the south. And the lawn seems to be being mowed just a little bit beyond those stone bounds, maybe a couple of feet. And my understanding is when you have a stone bound like that, that's supposed to show the edge of the zone of natural vegetation. And so there shouldn't be mowing south of those stone bounds along that. It looks like 20-foot right of way on that plot plan that we just lost. Yeah. So there's one stone bound back in the back of the property near where it says 68.94. And then there's another stone bound right about where that hand was just a second ago, near the closer to Main Street, but south of the driveway. So anyway, there we go. Yeah. So I wasn't on the committee when artists developed the property south of you, but that's my understanding of when they put in stone bounds like that. That's supposed to mark the 25-foot zone of natural vegetation. Chuck, you were administrator then?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that, at least it's clear to me that somewhere at the edge of the driveway is the property line. And the granite bounds depict the 25-foot CNV. So I'm not sure about this area that's in front of the granite bounds, but certainly behind them. And I know there's one up in this area here too. And it does turn towards the south in this spot. So, you know, I think that it's not a matter of asking you. It probably should be part of the decision that we're gonna ask you to stop mowing in this area and have that part of the decision. And the same thing that's going to go in the back here where you're cutting down the cattails. I think that you could get a permit for that if you wanted to do it just once a year, but you can't do it without a permit because you're actually altering resource area. And so the commission doesn't encourage that and would probably also make another motion to, to have a condition that would prevent that in the future unless you obtained a permit.
So you're saying that I have to let the wetlands encroach on my property each year? It moves further and further onto the property. I can't maintain the property line.
Yes, because you're working in a jurisdictional wetland and it's a violation to alter that. You can get a permit for it, or you can try to get a permit for it. I'm not sure how the commission will feel about it, but right now you don't have a permit for it, so you shouldn't be touching this area right here at all.
Chuck, can you put up the theme that shows the wetlands? If you click up at the top where it says themes and choose
Oh,
the,
no, I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
Yep.
choose the wetlands there. That might help show Yasmin what you're talking about.
So they don't usually show up unless I shut off
The area photography, yeah.
the aerial. So
So Yasmin, if you look at this image, it shows the little dashed dots that come considerably into your property line.
I
And
can't mow any of that.
that's the idea, though that area is supposed to be a wetland area. So up to just about where your driveway comes should be allowed to be wetland. And if you remember when we walked around there, there were several feet where we were walking on sort of soft, spongy ground, and then we came up onto your lawn where it was much more solid. And so hopefully that kind of corresponds with that line that they're showing on the GIS map that shows what is officially wetland.
yeah, so now that, so this is, I just traced where the wetland shows by the DEP aerial flyover, and obviously it's out in your lawn. And this here is not what we're talking about. This is lawn and you can maintain it. It's this area here that you shouldn't be working in. Now you're saying you don't want to allow this to grow into your yard. You could just mow right in this area here, and that would prevent it from growing into your yard, but it would not prevent it from, growing in this area here. So this is the area that's been cut down along with the grass, and this is what we're talking about, even though the wetland is way out into this area. If you wanted to get a permit, I mean, it's probably better just to go with this historic lawn edge than it is to try to get a permit, in my opinion.
That's not the line that's been there though. So when I've lived in this house for 35 years, there was a brook that went, and that was the property line. And when the brook was there, the wetlands never encroached in the yard. I know my parents went and there was fights between the town and the state as whose job it is to maintain the brook. Nobody maintained it, and the brook is no longer in existence. And that's why it just every year is moving further and further into my yard.
Right. But, well, I'm not sure about the history, but I know that if you just mow in this area, it won't move into your yard anymore. You will be mowing down cattail as it grows into that lawn area. So you don't need to walk into the wetland and cut that down also.
Okay.
And I think I mean, you, from trying, you probably know you can't turn that into lawn. So you're probably
No,
just
I'm
trying to
trying to
prevent it
back.
from moving forward. And I just
Yeah.
think you could just mow there on the lawn, not in the cattail area, and everybody gets what they want.
Cattails are growing in like the middle of my yard in what is lawn. I mean, some of them are back and some of them are forward. Am I allowed to cut down the ones that are in the middle of my yard?
Yeah, so if I said it like this, you probably
Well,
most,
not
it would be
there,
easiest to
but-
understand. You can maintain your lawn as it exists today by mowing it. That's not a problem. But don't get into this area here and cut it. So whatever you have as lawn now, that's fine. We don't have a permit. This is an observation. So if we had to get a permit and had to delineate a wetland, that probably would extend this line, up towards your house. And I don't think you want that. So let's just live with what's out there. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just quick comment if I can. And I think part of the confusion is it's not a clear, there's like a buffer zone. You have the cattail, then there's this buffer zone, and then there's lawn. So are you saying that she can continue mowing the buffer zone has been mowed? But
Well, I thought the picture
grass
was
is
pretty
growing there.
clear. So I thought the picture was pretty clear. Where the lawn is, they can mow. But where the cattail is, which is that beige area, they can't mow because that's not historically lawn.
Unfortunately, there are cattail shoots coming up in what is now lawn that is extending from that beige area more into what has historically been lawn. And
Right,
there
now-
are like scattered cattail shoots in a patch in one part of the yard.
I understand that there's, based on where I drew the line, there's probably jurisdictional wetland in the lawn. But we don't have a permit in front of us to. So as I understand it, when the commission went out to the site, that first 10 feet of cattail had been cut down. And the comment was made about not having a permit. So that work we probably can prevent. But in order to stop someone from cutting their existing lawn, I think that we would want to make sure that it is a wetland and not just a lawn with a few cattails growing in it. And again, that permit's not in front of us, and I'm not suggesting we get into that tonight. If it comes up in the future, where Yasmin wants to figure out where things exactly go, then that's how that should work. But right now, I think that lawn seems to have been in place for a very long time, and as long as we're not getting into the cattail area again, I think that's acceptable in my mind. So, Andrew, did I define the two areas at least where I wanted the work to stop, and I was okay with it continuing? I'll put it back up. I'll also get rid of the so this is the line I want maintained.
Okay.
I didn't mean to get into the grass here, but I'm not going to redraw it. But that's screen right can be lawn, screen left has to be left alone.
Is that clear enough for you, Yasmin, what we're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And are there any comments about the deck build? Because that's really what we're here for tonight. I don't see any hands. Because the deck is being rebuilt in exactly the same location and the footings are just being redug in the same spots, but with bigger, I guess they call them Bigfoot. It seems to me like this project is permissible. I don't have any issues with it. I am a little concerned. I just want to make sure that the construction debris is being removed off-site. Possibly, are you going to have a dumpster in the driveway for that purpose? And
No dumpster. I have a dump trailer and everything will be removed as soon as it's down.
okay. And it says the stockpile area is next to the deck. The construction access is off the driveway. Any spoils from the digging will be removed. So I think that's all pretty clear. And the straw bales will be installed to protect the wetland from the construction.
Yeah, is a straw tube acceptable? Stake down?
Yeah, so I know them as straw wattles, but I think we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it comes in a roll and you just roll it out and stake it in place. That would be fine. Yeah, I think we worked with this applicant a lot. So we reviewed the language and the plan. So before it came to the commission, I think that it was pretty much set and ready to go. That both the applicant and the homeowner have been nice. They didn't expect this, but they both said, yes, we'll go through this process. And so they work with the conservation office and put the application together. So I think that's why you see everything that we usually ask for inside this permit already.
Mhm.
So
Good. Okay. So any members of the Conservation Commission with any other comments?
Just want to make one if I can. On those wattles, Chuck, do you want to emphasize leaving a staggered gap so critters can move through?
yeah, so yeah, we usually let a gap every 40 feet for wildlife movement. I don't think that we concentrated on that too much because we have a 12-foot deck, 16-foot sticks out from the house, and if they just encircled that, we're really talking about, I don't know, 20 feet, 24 feet at the most, and it's just going to be like a cup shaped, but we could put a gap in the center just in case. So I will actually talk to the builder about that when I do my pre-activity meeting.
Okay, yeah. I knew it wasn't a long run, but I figured it doesn't hurt to have a gap somewhere anyway. Other than that, I'm all set, Martha.
Okay, Andrew, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question for the contractor. For the existing footings, are the new footings so we were removing the old footings entirely, the concrete that's there?
Yes, yeah, we need to pull the 3 main footings to put the big foot at the bottom of them with new 12-inch sonotubes. And the platform, 4x4 platform with the staircase, the building inspector is allowing to put on regular 12-inch sonotubes.
And these footings are going to be in the same exact location where the
3 of them will be, the others will not. They'll be slightly to the, but we still take them out. We, in the digging, they're going to be in the general vicinity where we can tip them and pull them out of the holes with straps.
okay.
So we don't, to leave them behind would just kind of be sloppy.
Yeah. Yes. And then so these spread footings, how wide are those? Are those?
They're actually not code at all. I don't know why he's asking for them, because usually they ask for them if there is a roof structure over the deck, but there is not. They're not, the Massachusetts Building Code does not demand them, but that is what the building inspector wanted. So the base would be about 16 by 16 in a kind of a square type cone shape. And then the 12-inch cardboard sonotube would sit over the top. So when you pour the concrete down, it spreads into the other larger footprint.
So it seems like we're going to need to dig some extra soil out. Where is that extra soil going to go?
Right in my dump trailer and removed off-site.
You're just going to remove everything? Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I don't think you want me to dump it in the cat nine tails, do you?
That's
Nope,
what I was curious
definitely
of. Don't tell me at least.
And then I just have one other question for Yasmin. You had talked about that you might want to put a fence in on the northern boundary of your property.
I
And,
did. I haven't actually like quoted it fully yet, so I wasn't sure if it was appropriate. It's not going to be, I looked at the town site, it's not going to be a 7-foot high. It's just like a ranch rail type thing. I just have an issue with my neighbors driving and using motorbikes on my property currently. I've gone over the property line quite a bit with them. The only solution at this point is to put up a fence to mark off the property. As you saw when you visited, I just put stakes with string right now to prevent him from being able to drive on the property. But the goal is I was trying to just do one project at a time. So once the deck is done in a month or so, I would like to get a fence in just to keep him off my property.
Is this the spot that you're talking about along here?
Yes, I just wasn't sure how close I can go to the wetlands. Or, I mean, obviously I can go to that spot right there.
You should
Okay.
go to that spot right there. I'm hoping he won't cut around. That would be really obvious that he's trying to bother you, I guess, but yeah, but here is where it should end.
Okay. That's where I was thinking about ending it. I just wasn't sure if I had to be a certain feet off the wetland.
And you're
for
putting
it.
up a 6-foot fence, 6 foot or
No,
under?
it's just like it's going to be under, it's just like a ranch rail, you know, it has the posts and then one going across and high and one goes low. Maybe it's like 3 feet tall or something.
Yeah, yeah, I know that.
And Chuck, when we were out there for the site visit and we went over and looked at that string, there are some concrete footings where the posts for a post and rail fence have been cut off flush with the footings.
That was my
right
neighbor.
along that area.
Yeah.
So
My old
there's
neighbor had a pool on that little circle that you can see on the picture, and that was the fence for that. And the fence was right on the property line.
If we were to go ahead with the fence, would you like the concrete footings removed?
That's just on our property.
I think that's a question I'll defer to Chuck with. And I don't know whose property those footings are on.
It's not the people that live there. They rent. But I do know the owner.
I guess it would be, cement dried isn't a huge problem. We would probably be most interested in the ones down at this end here. If I could just do this quickly, like anything in this area would be nice, but it would have to be on Yasmin's property for us to ask you to do that. So just go with your own judgment in that area. Because we didn't look at that, I'm not sure that I'd add it in. I certainly could add it in if it's on Yasmin's property to remove the footings, the cement footings, if
And
that's acceptable.
They're not fully on my property.
Yeah, so that would
and
just
this-
leave you the ones that were on your property that you'd have to remove. Would that be acceptable?
That would
I
be
mean, I
fine.
don't want you
They're
to,
fully on my property. Like it's right on the line. So like half of it is on my property and half of it is on the other property, basically. I think there's like maybe 4 there.
Yasmin, typically when a neighbor puts up a fence that isn't against other fence or isn't, agreed upon with the neighbor, you move 1 foot towards yourself onto your land and put it up so there's no discrepancies. That's just, from the fence guys I know, they do it just to guarantee that they're not encroaching on anyone else and everything's just kind of safe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay, so we'll just leave that part up to you. But we can, if the commission agrees, we can add the installation of approximately 140 feet of post and rail fence on the north side of the property.
And that way Yasmin does not have to come back for a separate permit for that. She has
Yeah.
permission to do that at her leisure.
For the next 3 years, once this is issued. And then
Oh, it's
after,
going very soon.
okay, just the permits last 3 years.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from the general public? I see no hands raised. All right. Do we have a motion to, this would be a negative determination of applicability, which would allow Yasmin to build this deck and fence. So is there a motion for a negative RDA, a negative determination?
I'll make a motion that we vote on a negative determination of applicability.
I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. All right, Yasmin, you're good to go. You can build your deck.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, bye now.
Bye.
All set to go?
Yep, did great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for your time.
Yep.
All right, appreciate it. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so now we're on to Small Lane, which just needs to be continued until August 10th.
Okay, so I need a motion to continue the hearing for Zero Small Lane.
I'll make a motion
Move
to
to
continue Zero Small Lane to August 10th, was it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, August 10th.
I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, the next hearing is 550 West Street. Okay, so we need to let Scott Harris unmute. Okay. And Maureen Harold. Okay. All right. This has been going on for, oh, I need to read it first. Continue the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Scott Harris pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to raise a portion of the single-family dwelling and bulkhead to construct an addition, rooftop infiltration, cut trees, tree plantings, associated grading, and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and the 200-foot riverfront area of the Aberjona River. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project Assessor's Map 25, Lot 2, DEP file number 270-0759. Okay. We've had this applicant in a number of times, so I think we're pretty familiar with the project. We had a site visit today, and we looked at the trees that were mapped out on the plan. If it's okay with the commission, I'd like to start by suggesting what trees I feel comfortable that they would be allowed to cut, and then give members of the commission a chance to suggest changes to that list. Does that seem like a reasonable way to get started? And have we lost Chuck again? Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. Any objections to my starting us off? Andrew?
That's fine.
I'm okay with that, but I think there's some bigger picture stuff that we
Okay,
need to talk about as well. But it depends on how the tree conversation goes, I suppose. So if you want to do that to get us started, we could do that. But just let's keep in mind we are in the riverfront area, so anything that we're doing is Well, it just needs to be thought through carefully.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing that you brought up, Andrew, that, you know, our mission as members of this Conservation Commission is to protect the wetlands. And I know that the family is concerned about the safety of their family with these trees, and we are very aware of that, but we also need to be very aware of the conditions that of the habitat that we're trying to protect. And that habitat is on the Aberjona River, and so things that happen here have a big impact on the river, not just next to their house, but all the way downstream towards the Mystic Lakes. So it's a big impact when you start cutting trees. Okay, so members of the commission, if you have in front of you the list from Northeast Tree Company with trees numbered 1 through 50, I'd like to just go down that list by number. And unfortunately, not all the trees are located on the map in the place that they're numbered with their tags stuck to the sides of the trees. So when there's a discrepancy, it's important to note that the number on the tree itself in place in the property is the number that matters, and not the location of that number on the plan surveyed by Stephen Melishuk. Okay, so just so people understand that. Okay, so from the list, my proposal is that we allow number 1 to be cut, number 6 and 7. The plan indicates that numbers 10 and 11 and 12, they are not asking to cut. So I'm ignoring those. And then number 14, which I think is one of the ones that the number on the tree does not match the location. So we're specifically approving the tree that has a number 14 stuck to it. In my opinion, 19 and 20. And then
So I'm back in the meeting, just so you know.
Okay,
I
good.
don't- I'm not going to turn my video on. I think it seems to be a problem.
All right. Okay. Did you hear me listing off numbers of trees, Chuck?
I think I heard you say 20, and that's when I got back in.
Okay. Do you need me to start back at the beginning or not?
You can probably, yeah. If you
Okay.
go, you can go quickly.
Yep, 1, 6, 7. And the applicant specifically said they aren't asking to remove 10, 11, and 12. 14, which is not located in the place that it shows on the plot plan. And then I think 19 and 20 could be permitted. And then, okay, the ones that are marked on the tree, 22 and 23 is in the area on the plot plan that says they are not planning to remove them. 24 is further away from the house than those ones that are marked 22 and 23.
Martha, you skipped 21. Was that going to be
Oops.
removed?
I skipped 21. All right. 21, I think, is another one that's not marked in the place that it's described as being. And I was not planning to have 21 removed because I think if 20 goes away, 21 might survive, but that's one we could certainly discuss.
On the plan I'm looking at, it says 21 is dead. Am I looking at the wrong plan?
They described it as dead,
Yeah,
Okay.
but
but it's
I think,
probably dead if you do any work near it.
yeah,
So just to give it a little more description, it's pretty much growing in the basal area of the larger, like 22-inch, 25-inch pine tree, and it's probably hugging it, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches straight up. It's lost all its needles except to the very top. The one thing that makes me think it's alive is because the bark is soft and supple, and it looks like it's doing well. But it's certainly one of those volunteer growths that's just going to die unless it hits sunlight soon. So it's, I don't know where we are with this, but I would say that it's so close to 20 that I didn't think there was any way you could save 21 if you took 20 out. So
Okay.
that's where I was at.
okay, so then 19, 20, 21, I'm willing to have them all go. Okay, so that takes us to 22 and 23, and I think 24 is a lot further away from the house than it shows on the map. And if we're keeping 22 and 23, it makes sense to keep 24. 25, I think we can cut. 28, 37, 42, 43, 44, and 46, and 50. So that's my list of what I'm recommending we approve, knowing that we are trying to maintain the habitat and the water management, stormwater management values that are provided by those trees. Okay, members of the Conservation Commission, are there any of those that you want to take off the list or any others that you would want to add to the list?
I lost you at 28. Can you just repeat the numbers
Yeah,
again?
sorry, I was going kind of fast. 28, and then 37,
Okay,
42, 43, 44, 46, and 50. And I think 46 is located closer to the tree line and not behind the clump of 5 pines that they're planning to save. So I think 46 was also severely mismarked on the plot plan. Maybe some others as well. 43, I think, is not marked in the right place. But based on the numbers on the tree trunks themselves, those are the ones that I think make sense to remove. And that provides the balance of increased safety for the family and protecting the habitat. Okay.
Any other?
I can just jump in and say that in essence, I agree with your list. There's nothing else I feel strongly about in either direction. Ones that I feel should be added or should be removed. So at this point, I'm fine with your list, at least as a starting point.
John, any comments?
45 and 47 are listed as being dead on the plot plan. Do we think those are actually dead, or?
So there's some, there's some missteps within the plot plan, and I mean, our list is from walking and looking at each tree. 45, I wrote down, just seemed healthy. So dead, we found some of the ones they've called dead. They are certainly dead. So this was not even close to being so obvious. So we just thought it was a mistake.
And the northeast tree did not call either of those two dead. So I
Okay.
think that's a place where the plot plan is inaccurate.
Hmm.
Okay, and then number 30, is that the tree that's already dropped branches on the garage?
That would be a
not
question
sure.
for the
Yeah.
homeowner.
Okay.
Believe you are correct, and we'd like the commission to consider removing that 30-inch pine. It's right next to the garage. It's a hazard to the garage, as well as just falling in the driveway and possibly seriously injuring a child or vehicle.
John, this is Scott, the homeowner here. You are correct. That is the one that had a branch come down and put a hole in my garage and caused me to replace the garage roof. That's the tree.
In addition, the other large pine trees on the edge of the lawn, I'd like the commission to just reconsider. So tree number 30, tree number 32, that's a 36-inch pine. Tree number 34, that's a 30-inch pine. Tree number 41, that's a twin 18-inch pine. And tree number 40, these are all large mature pine trees that are located, they're 90 feet tall, 80 to 90 feet tall, that have a potential to damage the property or damage a vehicle or seriously injure somebody on this property. And I think we need to reconsider these trees.
Okay, can you go through that list of numbers one more time, the ones you're particularly concerned about?
Sure can. So tree number 30, that's the 30 pine directly behind existing garage that has fallen branches on the garage. Tree number 32, that's a 36-inch pine. The arborist notes that this is leaning towards the house. Live growth is only on the house side. Major deadwood throughout the canopy, indicating potential of severe rot. Tree number 34, that is one of them that had poison ivy. He says it may be causing the deadwood throughout the tree and into the canopy due to the excess moisture and therefore rot. Let's see, tree number 40, white pine, large double leader. It has a major lean towards the house. It has a wire around the main trunk that's starting to girdle the tree. Tree number 41, again, another double leader tree. Deadwood throughout the tree and its canopy. These are all trees that are located close to the house, near the existing lawn area. I'm concerned about either the trees snapping, large branches snapping and injuring the children.
Yeah, so Maureen, I mean, a tree, just because it's a 30-inch tree and large doesn't mean it's going to fall. And there is the option to have some trimming done and take out all that dead wood. I mean, that's certainly an option too. But the one that, I think the one thing that you mentioned, number 34, I mean, the arborist said because there's a poison ivy vine growing on it, that's a reason why it should come down. I have to ask you to continue this hearing so I can ask some experts to find out if that's even on a list somewhere that causes trees to come down. I say that in jest, but it just doesn't sound like that would matter. And you could always cut the poison ivy vine.
Well, regarding that statement, Chuck, you know, the commission requested that a certified arborist review these trees. This is a professional that's certified, that has a stamp, and that's his professional opinion.
He's a professional opinion that poison ivy vines growing on a tree will kill it. That's fine. I just want to have an opportunity to look into that.
You know, and I do think that the commission needs to consider the liability that's in front of the town. If one of these trees falls and does injure a child, a vehicle, or a garage, and it's one of the trees that we requested the commission to allow to be cut, and you say, no, we want you to keep that particular tree, I think this opens up the town to major liability.
So what law are you citing with that? Could you provide that information to the Conservation Commission?
I'm not.
I mean, it may be true, but I would like to review that statement. It seems like, you know, I know that the town gets concerned about trees that are on their own property, but the Conservation Commission has either the town tree warden would review them themselves, and then make an evaluation. So
I'm not citing a law, but what I'm stating is that if one of these trees damages the property or kills somebody, and we came in front of you and asked you permission to cut it down, and you say no.
Mike Hannaford, who's the town tree warden, let me know that that he can make a judgment on a tree and then drive back to the office, and the judgment could be that it's fine and it's safe and that it can fall down after he leaves and goes back to the office. He didn't say he was in any liability because of that. I think that's the act of God that happens. I mean, we went out and evaluated these trees, and it might have been better if the arborist was there with us, but I'm really only pointing out the one that says that because there's poison ivy vine growing on it, that's a reason to take it down. It almost diminishes some arguments of this whole of the rest of these trees. But I'll just leave it at that, though.
So Chuck and Maureen, if I can jump in. So I also was uncertain about the poison ivy vine point. And so after the site visit, I came back and did some reading. I get it. The reading doesn't make me an expert by any means, but I did some reading, and yes, over time, poison ivy vines can severely damage a tree, but it's over time. So the question here really is, are those trees in imminent danger of coming down because of those vines, or could some remediation, either cutting the vines at the base, pulling them off, whatever you wanted to do, could some remediation save the trees, which would be better for the wetlands and the habitat of the wetlands? So I think that's pretty much what my driving thought was in considering these trees.
I think the trees that are clearly within close proximity to the structures need to be cut. I mean, all of these pine trees, they're at their maximum age. They're in, a lot of them are in decline. A lot of them are split or forked or compromised in some way. You know, we are proposing an extensive planting plan. We're not requesting the commission to just, let's remove these trees and have it naturalized. We are proposing an extensive planting plan to plant the trees back.
Any other comments from conservation members? Pro or con any of the trees that are on the list?
And there's a lot here to process. It was only this afternoon that we went there, and I'm not a tree expert. There's definitely trees that are dead. I've noted 6, 7, 14, 21, 22, 42, the one by the fireplace. Those I have no problem with them being taken down. Some of them, like 21, 22, 21 and 22, I don't know how they'll get in there to take down the dead wood without damaging any of the live wood. But that's a different issue. As far as the ones beyond the ones that are dead, I hear the concern about the ones in proximity to the house. I don't appreciate putting the liability on us. I don't think that's true. It's not our fault if a tree falls.
But if we request the commission to cut a tree, that an arborist has provided documentation that this tree is compromised and weakened for whatever reason, and it falls on a structure, it falls on a vehicle, or it falls and injures a child, I think you definitely have a liability on your hands.
So
I think
I would like a
it's
second.
in the town's best interest to maybe research that.
I would like research to be done. I would like a second opinion and have an arborist come to evaluate these trees, independent from someone who will be doing the work of taking them down. Given the information I have, I do not have, this is a biased report, so I do not have enough information to make a clear determination on what is being asked for.
To be clear, you guys asked me to get a certified arborist report. I have not hired Northeast Tree to do any work. I specifically said I am looking for an arborist report. I reached out to 7 arborists. Northeast Tree was the only one who responded to me and said, yes, we can do this report for you. Now you're asking me to incur an additional cost for another arborist report when we have a certified arborist report from a professional that the commission requested. I think
Scott,
hear from the arborist because he's not here, or yes, to get a second opinion.
Scott, it's within our purview to request third-party review. It's not, it's not worth, getting into it. If it looks like there's just a few trees anyways, but it was within our purview to do that.
I'm going to suggest that we continue this hearing to the next meeting and give Chuck a chance to ask the town council their opinion about the liability, because I think we cannot make any votes with that concern hanging over our heads. So
may I make a suggestion as well?
yes, Maureen.
I don't think it's reasonable to require a second peer review by another certified arborist when my client has already provided one. If the tree warden would like to go out and look.
Tree warden doesn't work on private property. He won't do it. We've gone down that road with him before. Maureen, it's just like you've been hired to delineate a wetland. Scott has hired an arborist. We have some concerns, so we can ask for a review, and there's no different. It's just between one would have been a wetland situation. Now it's an arborist situation. I don't see. Yeah, I know you're making a lot of strong accusations, and then you say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want you to actually go and get a consultant, or I don't want you to take the time to talk to your town council. I think you brought up the points quite clearly, and it's requiring some due diligence with the questions that you've brought up. So, I mean,
I completely agree with you, Chuck. I think it's in the town's best interest to research. I'm not disagreeing with you. But to require my client to hire another arborist to come out and to pay that person to do another review when this has already been done, I think it becomes unnecessary. We have a list of trees that are acceptable to be cut. The only other trees I asked the commission to consider were around the garage and along the edge of lawn. So to have another arborist come out and look at 50 trees, it does not seem reasonable.
I still think it's same as the wetland situation that I just described. It's within our purview. I don't know what to say other than that, Maureen. I don't think that it's your decision. I think it's up to the Conservation Commission. If they feel like they need some expert guidance, it's, like I've said a couple of times already, it's within their purview. I do think it's just a few trees that we're talking about here. I don't hear an objection about any of them other than the ones that you've mentioned, 30, 32, 33, 40, 41. That's where we're at.
And 34.
And 34.
1, 2, 3.
And in fact, I thought Commissioner Driven had mentioned that the arborist report was well written and spot on. Maybe I didn't use the exact words you used, but you said it was very well written and described the trees well.
So at this point, we're going round and round. It seems to me that the path forward is for Chuck to check with town council. If you want to hold in abeyance a decision on bringing an arborist until after that information is given to us, you could do that. And perhaps the commission would be open to a second arborist, only considering whatever that was, the 5 or 6 trees that you would like to reconsider, and perhaps that reduces the cost. But if we check on the liability first, we essentially take one layer of the onion at a time.
I agree.
Yeah,
And so that's what I'm suggesting, is that we check with town council about this issue of liability for the town, should we not approve all the trees you've asked to have taken down. But before we close the hearing tonight or continue the hearing, I also was looking at the proposed site plan, which shows the hay bale line and the plans for the proposed new addition. And I think just a couple of questions about the new addition. I presume the construction entrance will be along the driveway closer to the addition and not closer to the wetland. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Good. And do you have a soil stockpile area picked out for when you're digging out the footings for the addition?
Close to West Street, outside of the 200-foot riverfront area. So we could extend the erosion control to show that around the soil stockpile area to avoid any concerns with anything going onto my neighbor's property.
Okay, so the soil stockpile would be near the words proposed stone dry well, perhaps?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And is this going to be a full foundation under this addition, or just footings down to the freeze line, whatever that's called?
Have not gotten that far in the plan. Ideally, I would like to have a basement under the addition. Budget obviously would be a factor in that decision, but that would be the ideal route.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions from other commission members about the addition? Andrew.
Yes, I raised this last time we spoke, but we are in a riverfront zone, in a riverfront area, and the existing impervious area is over than 5,000 square feet. And by regulation, the limit is 5,000 square feet. So I'm not sure I understand how we would allow the proposal as planned.
So in my letter dated July 6th, I addressed the riverfront regulations. This is a redevelopment and everything is addressed in that letter.
So,
you
Maureen,
Yes.
this is not redevelopment. The house area might be redevelopment, but where the trees are coming down, it's not. That's correct? You agree with that?
Right, but the redevelopment regulations apply because we have existing structures, driveway, impervious area.
Only for those areas where you have the structures. Where there's no structures and the trees are there, that has to meet the standards 100%. That's 10.584.
So I spoke to Pam Merrill at DEP regarding tree removal in riverfront. Because I think at the last hearing I was at, one of the commissioners requested to quantify the tree removal within the riverfront. And I asked her, I said, how does DEP do this? How do I quantify taking down a 30-inch pine within the riverfront area? We're going to leave the stumps and we're going to put plantings back within close proximity of the trees we're taking down. And she told me, you don't quantify that. It doesn't get quantified. So essentially, we're taking the trees down that are compromised. And she said DEP doesn't quantify it that way in riverfront.
Well,
It's a performance standard. So yeah, it's not like you have to judge the performance of how the riverfront is currently acting, take the alterations into consideration and the proposals into consideration. And it's a judgment. It's not like we could just do some math problem and figure it out. So yeah, we have the riverfront cuttings. That's going to have an impact beyond what's already been done. But I'm just also talking about the proposed addition. That's not redevelopment there. You're not taking down an existing structure or working on top of an existing foundation. It's currently lawn. Lawn's green. So that whole proposed area is not redevelopment.
And Chuck, you're more than welcome to reach out to Pam Merrill, but I had a conversation with Pam Merrill regarding the redevelopment. And she says if you have areas degraded prior to 1996, which this is the site, with impervious surface, it would fall into the redevelopment. You wouldn't split it up the way that Commissioner Driven's speaking, where a portion of it would only be a redevelopment because you have that bump out on the house and that's impervious, and the remaining of that area would fall under the regular regulations. It's not how DEP looks at it.
I don't understand, Maureen, what you're saying. We
Well-
are looking at the existing site, the house, the driveway, the garage, the patio, totals 5,417 square feet of impervious. And the limit on the whole area would be, within the riverfront area, would be 5,000. So we're already, with just what's already on the ground, beyond the limit.
So the redevelopment regulations on page 2 of my letter says the area of the proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area, provided that the proposed work may alter up to 10% if the degraded area is less than 10% of the riverfront area. The existing impervious on the site is 5417 square feet, and we're proposing 1696 square feet for the addition. This does not exceed the amount of the degraded area on the site, so it is allowed.
You're not including the existing site. Okay, but that's not how it works. Even though the house was built before.
That's how DEP interprets the regulations.
So just explain quickly, degraded area includes lawn, is that correct?
No,
A degraded area means it has to have impervious areas, existing structures or pavement, absence of topsoil, junkyards, or abandoned dumping grounds.
Okay, but lawn is not any of those.
Lawn is not any of those, but the way DEP interprets redevelopment is that the site falls under redevelopment if it was developed prior to August 7th, 1996. I think this house was built in the early 1900s.
You keep saying you reached out to DEP, but it's funny, I reached out to DEP as well. And I got an email exchange with them that's saying nothing is exempt just because it was constructed before the regulations. So,
and this is a redevelopment. Because there's existing impervious area on the site that exceeds the 5,000 square feet, it doesn't mean he can't do any more work to the property. The whole objective of the redevelopment regulations was to allow work within the riverfront area on existing sites that does have impervious area on there. I mean, essentially, if that's how DEP interpreted it, then all of these existing sites prior to 96 wouldn't be able to do anything. You couldn't do an addition, you couldn't do anything. It wasn't the intent of DEP to penalize pre-existing sites.
Sounds like this is a question we also need to research before our next meeting.
but just to, I agree, but just to clarify, Maureen, they can do things on their house. They could take down existing portions of it, but they cannot add any more impervious. That is how the regulations are stated.
That is not, you are interpreting the regulations wrong. That is incorrect.
Well, Maureen, you're making this very challenging.
I'm not making it challenging. I'm trying to explain to you how the regulations work.
So Maureen, if you,
That's not the interpretation of the.
if you're at 5,000 square feet and you're within the riverfront, how do you add more to your property?
If you go to page 2 on my
Yep.
letter.
Right. I just want to know, just, do you have to mitigate? Do you have to?
So
Is that-
I've addressed every standard on page 2 of my letter.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's 4 or 5 standards. It says at a minimum, the proposed work shall result in an improvement over existing conditions of the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests, Mass General Law 13140. When the lot is previously developed, but no portion of the riverfront area is degraded, the requirements of the regular riverfront shall be met. So we're improving the existing conditions by incorporating rooftop infiltration for the single family addition, okay? It says stormwater management should be provided according to the standards established by the department. Single family dwelling is exempt from stormwater management standards. However, we're incorporating rooftop infiltration. We're complying with stormwater management standards when we don't have. Within 200 foot of the riverfront area, proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than the existing conditions, or 100 feet, whichever is less, or not closer than the existing conditions within 25 foot riverfront area. Proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or towards the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance to other portions of these regulations. This proposed addition is located within the outer riparian zone or as far from the river as possible. We comply with that. And then I already spoke about not exceeding the degraded area, which we do not exceed the degraded area. The project as proposed complies with the redevelopment standards of the.
Yeah, okay, Maureen, yeah, hold on, we got it. I guess we got it a little bit. We need some research. I don't want to go through all these again. I just think that what you're saying is the area of the property that's inside the riverfront area that's degraded is less than 5,000 square feet. and you can bring it up to 5,000 square feet or 10%, whichever is greater. And you're saying you meet that condition, which is 10.5585. I don't know, I2, I2AI. So probably cited that wrong, but that's what you're saying, right? So we need to look into that and go through what you've provided the Conservation Commission. I was also kind of wondering, because I just went through a project where there was a area that was considered redevelopment and an area that was considered under 10.5584. So I'd like to check into that part also. And I thought we had DEP on our side about that as well. So I thought we were all set with one part of this, but I think we're back into looking through the regulations again. And again, just to, and this hasn't come up, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that if this becomes too difficult for the Conservation Commission, they are within their purview to not only ask for the arborist, but to ask for a consultant. And that consultant might be a wildlife biologist that has some experience with the regulations to help them through this, these questions. So.
Okay, I think we have our questions in front of us, and I think maybe it's time to move on. Shall we continue this hearing till August 10th? Can I have a motion for that?
So just to clarify, so Martha, you laid out 16 trees, I think is what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maureen added 6 more.
I think it was 5 more. Sorry, Maureen, repeat that, please.
I didn't say anything.
Oh,
I mean, it'd be nice to get an updated plan that shows, before we talk again, of just the trees that we're actually, it seems to be an agreement on, or we could leave it as is and keep it going. But it would be nice if everyone's in agreement just to narrow down. So if we do bring in another arborist, it's not about 50 trees, it's about 22.
or really 5.
Really
We're in
5.
agreement on the first 16. It's the 5 that Maureen has added that we're.
Well, there's a few, I don't disagree with the garage one, and there's a few of yours that I'm not entirely sure, but I would like a second opinion, just like 25, 28, 37, 43. But yes, I think we could start narrowing down the trees. That would be nice to just get the conversation a little easier to handle. But if the applicant wants to keep it going and be more aggressive, then that's fine, and we'll have to work with that.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. Obviously I want to speak with my client about it and just, verify there isn't any other trees that he's concerned about that I didn't mention.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we continue this hearing till August 10th?
I just did have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the discussions that were just had about who's checking on certain things. So it sounds like Chuck is going to review with the town council about the liability concern. And I wasn't sure who was going to be getting clarification from DEP on the redevelopment clause, and where the commission seems to have one thought and Maureen has laid out the interpretation that DEP has provided to us. So I just wasn't sure whose court that was in, because I feel like Maureen's provided a pretty clear stance on our end. So is that in Chuck's court as well?
I was hoping that would be the case. Chuck, is that okay with you?
That's not a problem. Just remind the commission that, as Andy said, that you can, it comes down to your judgment. The DEP will tell you what they think, but they're not going to tell you what to do.
Okay. All right. And I think maybe we all on the commission should go back and look at these regulations that Maureen has cited, this 1055.5 section, to help us understand exactly what we're talking about here.
So with all that, then I'll make a motion to.
Hold on.
Oh,
Sorry. Maureen and Scott would like to continue to the 10th. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Okay. Now we can do the motion.
okay, so now I'll make a motion to continue 550 West Street to August 10th.
I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay. All right. I'm sorry this keeps dragging on, but thank you for your patience with us. And we are now ready to look at 31 Harold Ave, and the applicant has asked to continue that one to August 10th. So I think we just need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to continue 31 Harold Ave to August 10th.
I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Just before so this one is confusing, right? So there's the conservation restriction that has an area that's currently being mowed that should not be mowed, but they're saying there's a certificate of compliance that's conflicting with that.
Right.
But I just want to clarify, does that certificate of compliance date before the conservation restriction, or what is the timing between those two?
They're a year apart. And yeah, they're a year apart, and the homeowners are saying that the certificate of compliance for the whole project, when that was issued, it was issued in 2015, and that was, and the property looked as it does now. And so their contention is that they haven't changed it, and you agreed to this property. But the certificate of compliance is only approving what was written in the order of conditions. And the order of conditions says that a certificate of compliance needs to be obtained, and that had happened. And inside the certificate of the conservation restriction, so it needs a conservation restriction needed to be obtained, and that had happened. And inside the conservation restriction, there are certain requirements that have to take place, and that's where it mentions destruction of vegetation and left natural and those items, and that hasn't happened. So they are in a sense saying that the certificate of compliance trumps the conservation restriction.
So if I can jump in, so we can avoid rehashing all this now when we're going to continue it. And actually, Andrew, Chuck has laid this out in a number of emails, his conversation with whoever. So in the meantime, you can probably just catch up on those, and then they'll allow us to move forward tonight, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't understand the timing of them, and but yeah, that's fine. We could Andrew Driven, I am in favor of continuing this public hearing on 31 Harold.
John Sullivan also in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. And Brian, did you vote already?
Yes,
Yes.
I did. I'm still in favor.
Okay. All right. So now we're to old new business, and I think we have Josh Latham here to talk about the 269 Main Street Trail easement.
There you go, Josh.
Great. Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good.
Good. Thank you for coming and thank you for your patience.
Of course. So good evening, Attorney Josh Latham. I'm here tonight on behalf of 269 Main Street LLC. As you may recall, this was a project at 269 Main Street, the former Smith Oil site. You had issued an order of conditions in 2020 to redevelop this site. The applicant proposed as part of that process to grant a public trail easement running from Main Street to an existing sewer easement held by the town that ran across the rear of the property. Now that the project is nearly complete, it's essentially complete for construction purposes. We certainly do have ongoing conditions under the order, but the trail has been built and we have negotiated and finalized the proposed trail easement with town council. We've submitted the applicant's signed copy of that, and we've requested time before the Board of Selectmen as well. And that is going to be happening in August, depending on whether the commission votes tonight to accept that trail easement. To go over the trail easements, just quickly, what it provides is really two sections. Chuck, do you happen to have the plan that you could pull up, or I could do so?
You can do so. I'm not sure I have that available. I'll check right now, though.
All right, let me see.
Oh, I do have it.
Oh, great.
Here we go. There you go.
Great, thank you very much. So what you see is kind of the thinner trail that runs from Main Street just north of the building and then really cuts through to the back of the property. And then there's a much larger, wider trail easement that runs along the rear of the property, and that's more of a north-south direction. So the trail easement really addresses these in two different ways. We call trail easement 1 is the thin new easement that we're granting. And the applicant, now the condo association, has full responsibility to maintain that trail. I'm sure you've seen there's a raised walking area, as well as a maintained kind of a cinder path. So that section is entirely within the control and responsibility of the condo association to maintain. The larger easement in the back, we call trail easement 2. That section, the town already does have that easement for sewer purposes and drainage purposes, and the town does already have an obligation to maintain that clear just for access. So we do have a duty to keep that clean and to keep it clear, but we don't have the same level of duty as to repairing it and replacing it if there were damage in the back area. But really what this was meant to do is provide an opportunity for public access to connect to that existing sewer easement. And I think with the greater intent of the town to try to connect that across multiple properties over time. But we've actually included this obligation within the condominium documents. It's a specific provision at section 21 of the master deed that the condo association is entirely responsible to maintain that trail and abide by the trail easement and all of the obligations under the order of conditions. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any members of the commission have questions or comments? Okay, I'm not
Martha,
hearing any. So
keep on thinking, Martha, you're going to ask that question.
yeah, I am, but I'm first going to say I've walked this trail a number of times and I think it's beautifully done. And I especially like the fact that right on Main Street out at the sidewalk, there's a marker that tells you that there's a walking trail that you have access to, so that people from the neighborhood feel welcome to come and walk up the driveway and onto the walking trail. So I think that was well marked and well done. Chuck knows that I've been concerned. I keep going back and checking to see if anyone has removed that piece of pointy, rusty metal that I flagged, there we go, with some red tape a few months ago. And every time I go back and look, it's still there. And that just seems like the one concern I have. So do you have an answer about that, Josh?
I do. I actually, I don't know, Chuck, if this is the photo I took today, but I
It
actually went
is.
out. So I actually went out after Chuck raised that concern and I walked the path myself. I agree with you. I said to my client, I wish they were all, all my clients were this professional in how they handled things. I thought the trail looked great. I mentioned to them immediately that this is an issue and we want to get this removed. They told me that right after lunch, they were going to send somebody out. I did not have a chance to go out and see that they did do it. But certainly that's something they're committed to doing. And under the order, that's obviously something that we'll have a continuing obligation for as well.
Mhm. Okay. So
Great.
any other concerns or questions, anybody? Okay, so I think as long as it's understood that that kind of dangerous looking piece of metal gets removed that's so close to that trail before it gets voted on by the select board, I think I would be okay approving it at the level of the Conservation Commission. And I think it's wonderful that we have a trail easement back to that trail along the stream. It doesn't look like it goes along the stream on your plot plan, but it's a very pleasant walk along the stream down to the next street. Can I have a motion in favor of accepting this easement?
I'll make a motion to accept this easement at 269 Main Street.
I'll second.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Sounds great.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you very
Josh,
much.
I think we could get this signed and then to Fidel by Monday afternoon.
Fantastic. And I'll confirm with the client they've removed that metal by tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Chuck, before we leave this, so you are the commission members. That means we all have to get to Chuck's office to sign that before Monday.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're open 8 to 5:30 tomorrow, and then on Monday would be the same. And if it becomes a problem, I can drive it out to people, but we'll get this done. And Josh, if you have an opportunity, tell everybody that it was great working for them. I also felt like they were the best, one of the best, I better say it that way, one of the best developers and construction crews that I've worked with also. So
I will.
pass
Thank
that
you, Chuck.
along. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Great.
just a question, this does not connect to the certificate of compliance yet, right? That's a separate issue.
That's right. The certificate of compliance, we have mitigation planting that's reviewable for 5 years. And so that will be a little bit of time before we're ready to issue that. We will be talking about the planting at the next meeting. Dave Carwell from I think it's not Hayes, it's
No. I
Hancock.
know.
It's
Hancock,
Hancock.
yeah.
Yeah, it's from Hancock. Said he's going to go out and check it out next week, and he's going to put a report together, and we'll be discussing this stage, which doesn't mean anything needs to be done. What usually happens is they note the plants that look like they're in trouble, but then they monitor them to see if, what ends up happening with them, and then they'll replace them if needed. But I think right now we just have an invasive question, and I already sent that to Dave. He said he'd look at it. So we just want to make sure the invasives don't drown out what we planted. So anyways, at the next meeting. Josh, thank you. And thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so now we're down to like the real good stuff. So sticking with old and new business, we have the budget request. The Conservation Commission has a $5,000 budget request, and it's going to be August 9th. This is one of the things that, was a little bit difficult about our third-party review, having the applicant go out there. Part of our request allows us to get expertise help with engineering and consulting. So we wouldn't have to have put the burden on the homeowner if the commission so desired. So I put that there on purpose because I wanted to have that in future budget requests. Unfortunately, this year it's only $500, but that would certainly, with what I heard from Andy, it seemed like we would be able to have a few reviews with that kind of money. I don't know if you want to speak about that, Andy, but to continue, I would like to have some support at that August 9th meeting at the select board. It's $5,000. It's one of the larger asks out of the manager's funds, and it would be good to see others there. I will be there. I'll do all the talking if needed, or others can talk. I'm not sure who wants to. It's fine with me, but I think we should support our request.
So Chuck, that's at 7, I assume?
Yeah, so the agenda will come out like the week before, will be placed on the agenda at some point. I don't think it will be at the end, but I've waited till 8:30, 8:45 a couple of times.
And that'll be at town hall.
It will be at town hall, yeah.
Okay, I am planning to be there in person. Is there any other members of the commission that plan to go in person?
I was going to, and then the question becomes, do we have to worry about quorum?
I already put the agenda up.
Okay.
So we're posted as an agenda so everyone can come?
Yeah, I think, yep. Should be no problems on
Okay.
that.
All right, so you'll have at least 2 of us, and if Andy and John can make it, that's great. If not, at least Brian and I will be there.
So if you zoom in also, that counts, but in that it counts in 2 ways. It counts for the quorum, and it also counts as, supporting and participating. So both those options are available.
Okay. And you're saying August 9th, but I have August 3rd.
Yes, that was what I got from Fidel, but I later asked him. Yeah, so he was giving me the next APA committee date, and when I asked him about this again and checked that date, he realized that had happened. So the next select board meeting is the 9th, and that's what we need to go to.
Okay.
That came
Yeah.
out as a correction in Chuck's email that he sent, this morning.
Yeah, I tried to correct it each time that I sent you information, but
Yeah.
Okay,
I better shut this off.
all right. So moving on, 1505 Main Street. Chuck, you have some information that we got from the town council?
Yeah, I'm just going to shut my video off again. I don't think it's very stable connection. So 1505 Main Street, just the long and short of it is that we cannot provide the bond money to the homeowner of 1503 and 1505 to do any work that was required to obtain a certificate of compliance. So they're going to have to put out any money that it costs to do the mitigation area, the planting in the back, the lawn, fixing any erosion, as-built plan, engineer's letter, all that expense to the point where they get the certificate of compliance. But at that point, town council told us that once they get the certificate of compliance, they can request a return of the fees, and it does belong to the 2 homeowners at 1503 and 1505 Main Street. So they would receive $5,000 each. And so in my mind, they'll be putting out the money in advance, but being paid back after the process is over.
Assuming that they don't have to spend more than a total of $10,000 to get their certificate of compliance.
It doesn't matter what they spend. They're only getting the $5,000 back each. I don't think they're going to pitch it in together. Yeah, but I guess the statement about they'll be paid back, right, if it's under $5,000.
So Chuck, is that an individual thing where if one homeowner does what he's responsible for, he can get the money back? Or do they both have to satisfy everything?
There's 2 separate orders of conditions. So yes, it's 5, in the bond was broken into 2 $5,000 payments.
Okay.
I thought that was good news.
Mhm.
Better than I thought. But town council was pretty clear that the money belongs to the new owners.
Okay.
Next on the
So
list.
have you told the new owners that, or will you?
I will send them an email tomorrow
Okay.
and get that information to them.
Good. Okay. Long as they didn't have to be watching this video to find out that information. Okay,
No.
violation notices.
Yes, so we got some new violation notices out there just to check back in with Bond Street, number 30, number 38, and number 34. They were supposed to check back in with us on June 1st, which did not happen. Brian wrote some new letters, and I don't, if you want to go over the dates, Brian, I don't know if it's important, but we'll be hearing from them once they receive the letters, and we've invited them to the meeting again, and we have a site visit. We have a site visit on August 4th to check out the sites.
Yeah, I'd originally made one the 4th and one like a week later just to give somebody more time, but I'm not sure how they ended up. But either way, the idea is, thank you, Mr. Homeowner. Thanks for coming in back in January, February. We agreed to this. Part of it was you letting us know when the work was done. That timeline has passed. Perhaps you've done the work. Either way, can you get a hold of us so we can schedule a visit out to look at it? And you have a few weeks still to do the work if you haven't got to it yet. That's pretty much it.
And the site visit will be just Brian and Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, we were doing it that way just to, I don't know, keep the process lean.
They're my neighbors, so I'd like to join. If it's
Are
not
you
too-
on Bond Street?
I'm on Vine, but I walk my dog past their home every day.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Sure, I'll just I'll add you to the emails. All right.
Yeah. So there's not a new violation notice that went out technically. We're just following up on the previous ones.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. But the only thing that didn't happen is we asked them to check back in on June 1st.
Okay.
Now, just so you know, we had done the same thing on Baker Street. And I actually stopped in when I was next door visiting the house where the work was being done. And she took me out back. She showed the work in progress, and she just hadn't realized she was supposed to get back to us. And so they're making progress. We're not looking to find them or anything. So this is the same kind of a gentle reminder at this point. And next steps will depend on how this goes.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing on the list is this Jim Castellano, Armor Development, unauthorized clearing, grading, altering, and an area subject to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act, retaining wall, blah, blah, blah. I think I'd like permission to remove that from the agenda. I think we've cleared that up with our talk to town council. He's out of the picture according to our town council, and we're going to be dealing with the homeowners at this point.
That makes sense to me.
Me too.
Okay. RMLD, Integrated Vegetated Management Plan. I sent that around. Apparently, RMLD, there's a meeting coming up that me and Brian were going to attend, and Mike Hannaford would like to have more communication between RMLD himself and the Conservation Commission when trees need to be cut or pruned under the wires. And I think there was a misunderstanding that they believe that they got a permit one time or permission from the commission one time, and then that they don't ever have to come back to the commission again or ask for permission. That was in an email from one of the RMLD people. So we just want to go to this meeting and kind of get the things back on track, communication. I don't think that anything's happened. Mike has asked them not to work in town until we resolve this. And that's as I understand it. So we're still waiting for them to get back to us, but they can't wait too long. They usually do work on the trees around the power lines a lot. So that's, and I sent out the integrated vegetation management plan, and you can read through it. And if you have any comments about our jurisdiction, that would be greatly appreciated. So it's reading that, and it's also understanding the Town Tree Warden Act. And those are the two documents that you would need to review. So the next on the list is just to let everybody know that the DPW monthly meeting is on August 16th, this upcoming month in August. I think Brian and Martha attend, but we can switch that out if anyone else wants to be involved.
I'm available to go by Zoom that day.
Yes, I think that'll always be a Zoom meeting. It seems to me that that's very convenient for staff, and it's not required.
Okay.
You know, it's not required to be in person at this point.
I was going to say this last one, the most recent one, was the most involved since I've started going. They're usually pretty perfunctory, and DPW doesn't usually bring much to the table. This time there were a few topics of conversation. The main one being that vegetation management plan that Chuck was just talking about. So it actually was more useful than it usually is, in my humble opinion.
And so Brian, are you available that day as well?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian and I can both go. If anybody else wants to, you're welcome to take a turn.
Yeah, the only way I wouldn't is if I decided to get back into heavy drinking, and then we have to ask one of you guys.
All right. Anything else?
So yeah, just moving on, the administrative report. I just want to report that Next Step Ministry has done, you know, the best job of the volunteers that I've run across since I've been in conservation. They have shown up and done a great job. So we've had 50 feet of boardwalk built at Pinevale, basically cleaning out all the scraps and all the wood that we have in the Trails Committee bunker, which is underneath Matera Cabin. And they built a trail and boardwalk at Lynetta Lane, which will end up being a loop trail in the future on a piece of conservation land that was given to the Conservation Commission from that developer of Lynetta Lane, the first developer, not the current developer. And they painted the Matera Cabin, and they painted the entire cabin, and the doors were a different color, so it's brown, and it has a lighter color for the decking and for the doors. So when you go there, you're probably not even going to notice it's been painted, because it just looks so natural. It looks like that's exactly the color that it was supposed to be. People have made comments about it, but it was a great job. And again, these guys are coming in as volunteers, and they're just spending their summer doing help. They come in for a week, which is Monday through Thursday, and then a new group comes in the following Monday. So it's been great. The coordination's been great, and watching the money disappear, buying stock has been also great. So I just wanted to mention kudos to those guys. The team over there is great. So Zero Small Lane, we received the money at town meeting to do the surveying. The surveying is required. I said Small Lane, even wrote it down as Small Lane. I mean, Zero Sanborn Lane.
Right.
It's that piece of property that was donated to the Conservation Commission. But one of the steps we had to take prior to accepting it is to have it surveyed. This is, you know, this could have been an $8,000 job, but we were able to get an estimate to do the work from a local surveyor, and it came in a lot less at this point. So they're already doing the deed research, and they're going to work and get that. So we'll be able to pick up that piece of property which is at 0 Small Lane. Do you guys, does anyone want to see that property, or is it something that I might have brought up in the past or shown you guys in the past?
It's 0 Sanborn Lane. again.
Sanborn. Yeah.
And
just
it's
correct
right
me every
where
time.
the pavement of Sanborn Lane crosses the river. There's
Yep.
and we've been to, I think it was 57 Sanborn Lane to look
Yep.
at the trees they wanted to cut. It's
Right.
just next to that.
Yeah, I've looked at it. I think what Chuck's saying is
Great fill. Yeah,
it's a small parcel on Sanborn Lane.
that's it there.
Yeah.
Sanborn Lane, this is town land right in front, so there's access. It's dry on either side and it's wet in the center. This is water department land, but it's connected to town forest. So the water department, the wells will be decommissioned at some point. It's a great pickup because that's connectivity. It adds open space. It adds connectivity to all of this area here and to the town forest. So this is the current area that we're looking at. I don't believe it's too much. Yeah, it's just 2 acres, just about 2 acres of land. So that's where we are with that. I thought that was wonderful. We've also set up our gift account, and we've gotten some money from people to put towards conservation purposes. So I was able to set up a gift account with Sharon Engstrom, who was happy to do that. And so, you know, that's another source of money that we can tap into for, you know, conservation purposes and scout projects, planting, you know, things like that. Invasive removal, what we think is correct for conservation purposes. So those are the 2 items that just happened. There's no correspondence. There was no emergency permits.
Can I slow you down for a second, Chuck? I wanted to make a question about the volunteer workers from Next Step Ministry. I went to Lynetta Lane and checked out the trail that they have built, and I think it was really beautifully done. It starts with crushed stone and then goes to wood chips and then goes to a boardwalk over the stream. I am wondering what their plan is for the extra crushed stone that is at the end of the cul-de-sac next to the entrance to the trail. And it looks like maybe they took out a couple of sections of granite curbing when they put their path in. And do you have any idea what's going on there?
Sure. So this is a hybrid project where I got the developer involved, just like I did over at 269 Main Street. So this is a developer generated trail. So Steve Knight, who is the developer that took over, is going to bring that trail, or did bring that trail, from the cul-de-sac through the curbing, through the park, through the sidewalk, down to the bridge. And it's really the bridge what Next Step did. Steve Knight did the rest.
Okay. And so Steve Knight will be cleaning up the excess crushed stone and finishing up that road and bring whatever he needs to do to finish the street. Is that true? Did we lose Chuck again?
Waiting. Can people hear me? No?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to say yes. Still finishing cul-de-sac, crushed stone, and any work on the lawn on either side of the crushed stone as it leads down the trail, sidewalk, curbing. That's all things he has to do to finish up the cul-de-sac. So that crust probably he's going to use then somewhere else or somewhere else on that project.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can take off enforcement Jim Castellano.
Yep, all that. There was one more thing I added. I'm going to send out to the Conservation Commission a list of trees and streets, and Mike Hannaford would like to know if he can do the work that's described in this list. We talked about it at last month's DPW meeting, and we were unclear about what was being trimmed and what was being cut down. He said, unless it says otherwise, assume it's being removed. So I'll send out the list, and the commission members can look through the list and check out the list. I'll be driving around with Mike at some point to look at a few of these trees, but I don't think we're going to go and see every single one of them from him. He said there's a couple of them that we don't really need to look at because they are absolutely dead. So anyways, I'll send out that list, and I don't think hold on, I just want to check the first page. I think I'm good. As soon as I find my first page, I'm going to tell you that I'm good to go. Here it is right here. Yeah, so that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
You have 445 Pearl Street, second letter needed.
Okay, 445 Pearl Street. Thor has been very helpful, and has been contacting the homeowner, even though it's not part of what he was asked to do, and he's trying to set that project up to move forward. But it seems like there's a little bit of delay between the dad, Jim Rivers, I'm not sure if, and his son, Jack Rivers. And I was hoping that we could get another letter out, and just to say that we'd like to start this project. And if not, we're going to be right back where we were before and talking about enforcement.
Is that a letter that you and I sent, or was that before me?
That was before you, but you were there. You know the property.
No, I know the property. I just didn't remember sending them a letter, so I thought I might have fallen on my head or something.
That started out as an enforcement. That went right to an enforcement. It was pretty egregious to reroute the stream and fill in one side of it, or actually where the stream was. And we wanted to have that corrected. It's just that nothing's happened. They got to a point where the work was about to start, but Jack went into the hospital that day, and we haven't been able to get this thing kick-started since. So that's where that stands. So I don't know if you want to go another meeting and just let me and Thor try to call them and try to coerce them into starting that project, or do you want to just authorize a letter?
Is it worth stopping by in the weekend to see if we can catch the sun at home?
Yeah, it is. If you want to go there, there is still an enforcement order running in perpetuity until we release it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can do that this weekend. It's obviously not far from my house, so.
So I'll send the old email out to everybody, just saying that you're going to try to stop by and strike up a conversation about that work and when it's going to start, just so they have a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah, and actually, could you send me whatever that original letter was, so I know?
It's an enforcement order, but yeah, I will.
Okay, enforcement order, yeah.
Okay, and no bills to pay?
We don't have any bills anymore because I passed it off. I got the facility department because they're not only they take care of Matera Cabin, but not like we both still have to take care of Matera. They'll do the major project if something falls on it, like a tree, like did last year or 2 years ago. But painting it and furniture for the inside, that's really still the Conservation Commission's spot. But they get the money from the rental and all that to do their maintenance, and it goes into the general fund. I don't know where it goes, And I asked Joe Huggins if he would take on that water and sewer bill, and he said, no problem.
So can we delete that from all future agendas?
No, because we might get bills.
Oh, okay.
So we'll get a bill like, let's say we decide to get an arborist. You guys are gonna have to approve the payment of that bill. So I need that as a,
Placeholder,
Yeah.
but we don't have any routine water bills to pay anymore. Got it. Okay, minutes for approval. I saw the June 22nd minutes have come out. And I sent a comment back to Chuck about the highlighted parts. Did anybody else have any issues with the June 22nd minutes? Oh, here's our tree list.
yeah, I wanted to just show 35 spots. It's good dog walking areas there, and you can
Well,
start,
you never know. I might see some of them.
you can start on Salem Street and then end up at Sturgis Park.
So what is this a list of trees of?
This is a list of trees that the forestry department wants to cut down unless it says trim or something like that on
Okay.
next to it. So it doesn't say cut, but if it doesn't say anything, it's going to be removed. So there obviously all these trees are within the jurisdictional area, and Mike wants to get the conservation's permission. If it was one tree, I usually just say yes. But Mike's put a list together because he wants to do all these at once, and he's given an opportunity for the commission to look at each one and ask them if they have any problems with any of these trees, and go from there. So maybe we can approve this at the next meeting. And so Mike can schedule the work.
I think I'll try and hit like every fifth one or something just to sample them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's this one, dead leader, dead limb, remove 5-inch leader. It's that kind of stuff. I'm not sure you're gonna go to every one of those.
Well, you know what I'll be doing now? I'll be going to look to see if there's any poison ivy vines.
Yeah, because yeah.
Telltale sign.
I did drive through Charles Lawn Cemetery within the last week and looked at the bittersweet vines that are around the edges. The trees within the lawn are well maintained, but there's a lot of bittersweet taking over the trees along the sides where the streams are. So, and
All right.
he has plans to deal with some of the ailanthus trees around that area. But I noticed there's still a lot of bittersweet. And about a year or so ago, we went in and talked to him about what he was going to plant. And there are certainly a number of new trees planted in Charles Lawn Cemetery.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. So any other issues with the June 22nd minutes?
No,
Other
only-
than the highlighted parts that I suggested we remove the highlighting? Andrew?
It's very it's minor, but for Zero Small Lane, both votes should say 5-0. I wasn't at the meeting at that point. One of them says 6-0, suggesting that I voted for that one. But so that's the only minor change that I noted. And you said you added some of those highlighted areas. You added some information.
Yeah, I think where it's highlighted is information I added later after the first draft went out. So those would be places that people might have wanted to check and make sure those are accurate compared to the first draft I sent. And then there's also a place said missing some notes here, and it's highlighted. And I think I watched the RCTV version, and there was no important information in that discussion that needs to be added in. So I think that comment missing some notes here can be removed and
Pretty lengthy
does not
as it
change
is.
the tenor of the conversation.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to accept the June 22nd minutes as amended?
I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for, which ones are we looking at?
June 22nd.
22nd with the amendments we discussed.
Okay.
Second that. Brian Bowe in favor.
Andrew Gibbon in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, and I don't think we've seen yet the 1110 or the 713. Is that correct?
No, I discovered that the 1110 was not available. So
Ah.
that's not even started.
Okay,
The 713 is just about complete and I can send that out. That was an easy one. But 1110 is going to have to be reviewed off of the video.
why don't I volunteer to do that since Brian is going to do this meeting?
Tonight, yeah.
And I can easily watch the video of 1110 on the internet.
Sounds good. And then we'll catch up and that would be great.
Okay, so Chuck is doing 713, Brian is doing 727, and Martha is doing 1110-2021. Okay,
Sounds good. And I don't think that I don't have anything else. And it's 9:45.
So it's time to make a motion to adjourn.
okay. All in favor?
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget to come in to sign. That will be available at 7 o'clock. I'll put it tomorrow. It won't be available at 7 o'clock, but Monday it will be because it's still sitting on my desk. So anytime after that, it'll be available. Do you think you can get all in tomorrow? Is there someone who can't? And I can, if I'm only looking for one signature, I'll go to that person or instead of waiting till Monday. So
That should be there tomorrow.
If I can go at between, say, 10 and 12, will it be available by then?
I'll just have it at the counter. So Kim Saunders will be there or Donna
Okay.
Tosio.
And you'll have it available by 10 o'clock.
No, it'll be available at 8 o'clock. I'll be there at 8. It's just on my desk and they won't know where to find it.
Okay, so as long as it's there by 10, I'll come in between 10 and 12 and you'll have it there by 8. So that sounds like that'll work.
Anyone need me to ride it out to their house tomorrow?
I think I'll be able to get there tomorrow morning.
John, you want me to bring it to your house in the afternoon?
I'm going to be gone in the afternoon, but I can come in the morning and sign it.
Okay, John, great. Sounds like we're good. I think that's great. Another piece of property for the Conservation Commission, another trail easement. Love it.
Yay.
Okay. 9:46. We had our motion. We had it seconded. It's been approved. Time to go.
Oh, wait, before I lose you, Chuck, so the visit, is that right? Is at Mallet, if I'm saying that right, is next Tuesday?
It is. It's next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, it's August already.
Yeah,
Okay.
next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, Seth Moulton is going to come down to a project that we had funded by the MVP, that we had, that we're hoped to have funded by MVP, and Seth Moulton coming up. And it's going to be very exciting. It still looks like a field and a forest, but someday, hopefully, if we get approved, we'll get, approximately $3 million worth of funding, and we'll be able to put in a stormwater structure and a park.
So Chuck, has that been announced by the state yet? Because in the letter it said, don't say anything yet.
No, it hasn't been.
Okay.
And so we don't know what's going on.
Right,
Yeah.
but are we, I think we're still on RCTV. Are we inviting members of the public to come to that Seth Moulton?
Yeah,
event?
sure. There's going to be a press release, and we were working on it today. And it'll probably be sent out tomorrow or Friday, but there'll be a press release, but it just directs everybody to, at 1 o'clock on August 2nd, to, if you're available, to park at the Austin Prep lot and walk over to the entrance of the Millet, Psalms, and Morgan Land, and off Willow Street, that's next to 60 Willow Street. And you'll see a sign right there next to the railroad tracks. And you just walk down that roadway and you'll see a podium and a bunch of people, some DPW trucks. And we're going to have a short announcement, and Seth Moulton's going to talk about earmark funding that he has for this project, and how he's helping also. So the public's invited, the Conservation Commission's invited, everyone who can hear this message is invited. It would be nice to have a good turnout.
So I assume it makes sense for us to try and get a blurb about it into Fidel's manager minute, whatever that's called.
Yeah, it would be. I think that it was, yeah, I know Fidel's on top of this too. It's Fidel, myself, Andrew McNichol, myself, and engineer Alex Rizicki. So
the last thing that I put in there went through Jane. What's the, I mean, that's the same path for anything going through it? Do I send it to Fidel's attention instead, or what?
yeah, so another Bo had sent an article to Caitlin Saunders and asked them to put it into Fidel's newsletter.
Is that how she did it? Okay.
Yeah.
You would think you lived in the same house or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. You guys have to have like a little talk time.
Well, we have a summit meeting, yeah.
Yeah, you got to set up a meeting for yourselves. So, anyways, that's how it happened. Caitlin Saunders just sent it to me, and that's all I heard about it. So I'm assuming it's in it.
Okay.
So that's it. Yeah, please come to the August 2nd Seth Moulton press release about the Millet, Psalms, and Morgan Land. It would be excellent.
And I'm sorry I won't be able to be there, but I will talk it up among my friends.
Sounds good. Yeah, and someone call Anika Scanlon and the people down at Weston and Sampson. So I already sent Anika an email and talked to the people that did the original survey. So maybe they'll show up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Horsley Witten will be there. MVP people will be there. So
Good.
Okay.
I plan on being there, so I'll see you there, Chuck.
sounds great. It
Good.
sounds, yeah, you can just actually walk right over, right? Sounds
Yeah.
like now that I know where you live. So,
Yeah, you can take the path through the woods.
Yeah, I would be coming, most likely I'll be coming from the back way, yeah.
the official name of that is the Abidjona Headwaters Trail,
Okay,
but you don't have to, whatever. Down Hunt Street, cut across the Headwaters Trail, and then when you get to the end, take a right, and you're in the field.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
take a
familiar,
left.
yeah, take a left, right takes you to Maine. But all right,
Well, you can take a right, then take another left, and then another left, and then take another left, and you'll be there.
I'm sure I can find it.
All right. Okay, we're good. We don't want to waste our early night.
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye, everyone.